and welcome to Double Vision. My name is Ryan Burford, and today I'd like to talk about the Evil Dead films, namely the original and the remake.
Evil Dead came out in 1981 and was written and directed by Sam Raimi. It was a low budget film that quickly became a cult classic, and to this day is still hailed as one of the most unique and greatest horror films of all time. The bar was set extremely high for a remake, and naturally, I scoffed at the idea at first. Until I saw that Sam Raimi was one of the producers, along with Bruce Campbell, the star of the original who became a cult icon in his own right.
Groovy.
So I went and saw it, and I was actually surprised on how well it did. It made its callbacks and used plenty of gory practical effects, but it was different enough to feel like its own thing. I'd like to discuss the two films and determine which one is superior.
This one may seem a bit obvious for Evil Dead fans, but for this review, I will only be counting the original Evil Dead film, and not the sequels. So, on that note, we only get just a little bit of the joke-cracking, deadite-killing badass that we all know and love.
For most of this movie, Ash is actually a bit of a dorky wuss. It seems like he's the last one to survive this film just out of luck. Now on that note, that makes it all the more rewarding when he does actually start taking initiative and fighting back. It all feels very natural. Now regarding the main character of the remake, Mia, she couldn't be more different. She probably spends less than half the film being an actual human. She actually turns into a deadite. That's kinda new. I didn't actually expect her to be the main character for the first time I watched this. Mia struggles with drug use on top of having a past of crazy family members. It makes her character seem more three-dimensional when she does get possessed at first, because her friends don't know if she's going crazy from withdrawals or mental issues, or if the stories she's saying are actually true. And on top of that, Jane Levy is an insanely good actress. And whether she was playing a troubled girl who is recovering from withdrawal, or a psycho Kandarian demon, she absolutely nails it.
Now the real question is, which of these two characters is the most likable, and therefore to want to root for in the end?
Well, the thing is, Ash has more personality and a sense of humor, and feels more like a real person. He sort of plays the role of the underdog in the original, which makes you want him to triumph that much more. As much of a range of emotions Mia had to go through, she didn't feel as fleshed out as Ash, considering the disadvantage that she wasn't technically around for a good portion of it.
As a result, her victory in the end didn't feel as earned as Ash, so I'd say original gets this point. You can't have an Evil Dead film without fever dream zombie demons. Now this is the tough one because they both utilize different types of fear.
The original Deadites are scary in the sense of their unpredictability, and their confidence that they will eventually kill you. I say this because the film takes advantage of all the quiet moments to build suspense. Where are they? Are they watching you? When they are actually found, they could either lunge at you across the room with a knife or just stare at you laughing. This one just sits and laughs at Ash, and even while he's slapping the shitballs out of her, she just keeps laughing, does nothing, and then sings. Fucking creepy. Now, as for the remake, these Deadites are just batshit crazy, and it's absolutely terrifying.
There's very little subtlety with these guys, and that sounds like a bad thing, but it's really not. Nothing is off limits for them, and they're just over the top, gory, and disgusting, pushing boundaries even for a series known for its gore.
In true Evil Dead fashion, the gore is creative, and you don't know what to expect next from them. Cutting your face off with glass? Sure, why the hell not? Shower until your face melts off? Go ahead, it's a free country.
I didn't know it was that free.
Having said that, the real question I'm asking is which of these two demons would you less rather share a room with?
This is a point where the remake actually has the advantage, and much of it has to do with just the makeup and the effects. While the effects of the original were incredibly impressive and even iconic for the time, the remake's effects had 32 more years of technological advances behind them, and they were incredibly well executed. I loved the horror with a splash of comedy that I got from the original Deadites, but every time they were on screen in the remake, my heart was constantly racing, and I was always on the edge of my seat. So I'd say remake gets this point.
Well, quite honestly, none of the side characters in these movies are particularly interesting. It just kind of seems like they exist to get killed off or turned into deadites.
But there really is a sense of camaraderie and real friendship in both films. In the original, it's just a group of friends having a fun getaway, and their interactions do feel natural. This gives the beginning of the film a more lighthearted and disarming feel, as they crack jokes, make fun of each other, and just have fun. And you really could tell they cared about each other. As shit starts going downhill, though, people's true nature starts coming out, and they have to choose whether to save themselves or help their friends. Now, in the remake, the group of friends have this getaway so they can help their friend Mia recover from drug abuse. Now, this sets the tone for the beginning to be much more serious, which is fine, but it doesn't really allow for much personality to be shown through the side characters. But, like I said before with Mia, another element is added with the brother having a mom who went insane. At one point, he's the last one to survive, and he actually struggles to believe what's happening to his friends and his sister. This denial is understandable, since he's considering if maybe he's going crazy too, but the boundaries push a bit too far sometimes. Yes, he does end up saving his sister because of this, but there are way too many times where this dude should have died for making terrible decisions. As a viewer, it's a stressful thing to watch. And I also really dislike that the demons were summoned just because one guy who ignored every possible warning and read the incantation aloud anyways, and then kept it to himself for a decent chunk of the film. They were just kind of a hard group to root for.
I really did care more about what would happen to the original group, and I just ultimately found them to be a bit more likable, so I'd say the original gets this point. Now, these two films pretty much had the same story, but just with small adjustments. I'd like to analyze which story was more intriguing, and furthermore, which was told better.
First off, the remake begins with a scene where a girl is tied up, begging her father not to kill her, and she eventually reveals herself to be a demon. So he lights her on fire and then blasts her in the head.
You're fired.
After that, it cuts to the group of friends driving to the cabin, which is how the original starts. I didn't really like how the remake began because it wasn't really clever or subtle. It just gives away too much too soon, in my opinion. It gets rid of the mystery and suspense that builds behind what's to come. And that right there is a core difference between these two movies: suspense. The original doesn't just use the script to tell the story, it really takes advantage of silence and creepy scenery to push the horror and the suspense forward. Another example would be the summoning of the demons. In the original, they're all there when it happens, and they're all there to question whether the lives are actually in danger, or if it's just some sort of hoax. In the remake, only one guy does it, and while there's some suspense behind everybody thinking Mia's just going crazy from withdrawal, nobody knows about the incantation besides Eric. I don't think that's nearly as interesting. And I would give props to the remake building some depth with the drug abuse thing, but it doesn't really go anywhere in the end. It was a huge theme at the beginning, and I was just disappointed to not see any sort of resolution with it. So at the end, I just felt the story of the original flowed a bit better and was more entertaining. It was simple and didn't take itself too seriously, and it just really had fun with its ideas.
So, I award the final point to the original film, making the 1981 Evil Dead the superior film. The remake was a really well done love letter to the original, and it was cool to see a low budget movie be redone in a much higher budget.
You could feel the same passion and creativity in both films, and you could tell the filmmakers just had a blast making them. Evil Dead has reached its level of timeless fame due to just how unique it is. Not many movies can make you piss your pants both out of fear and laughter. They're just entertaining movies no matter how you look at it. And I'm not even talking about the sequels of the TV show, which are absolute riots, which you should definitely check out if you haven't already.
This is my boomstick!
With that said, thank you for joining me on Double Vision, and I will see you all next time.